Welcome to another devlog. Wait, that's not right. As much as I have been working on the main game, I have also been working on another game. If you've seen the intro to my channel or you've seen the first video I ever made, you've seen this rocket game before. Last video I mentioned that somebody wanted me to make this game better. That someone was my mom. She's a teacher in Romania for third graders, and she apparently uses my game as a reward to her kids for good behavior or performing well on tests. She also uses riddles for the kids that don't like my game, which is totally fine not to like my game. I mean, it doesn't hurt my feelings at all. Like, it's totally fine. I'm not bothered by it. Anyway, that by itself is awesome. But the reason that I had to update the game was because the kids had taken the game home and beaten all of the levels. The school year is almost over, so I told my mom that for the celebration at the end of the school year, I would release an updated, better version of the game for her class, with a secret at the end of the game, which I'll tell you about later in this video. My mom loved this idea, but their school year was only a week away when I started remaking the game in my spare time. This is what I had to do. Here is the game. It can only be controlled by holding the A and D keys, and the boost is spacebar. The rocket turns very slowly, so you have to be super careful on how you turn because it's almost impossible to recover from overturning. There's about 24 levels, and some of them are way harder than any others, creating huge difficulty spikes that my family was so gracious to tell me how frustrating they were. There is no saving system, so for example, if you beat 18 levels and refreshed your browser or something happened, you would have to beat the same 18 levels to get back to where you were. Okay, so the game needed some serious TLC, and the first thing I did was adding about 10 levels and tweaking some of the difficulty on the really hard levels. So I'm trying to make the difficulty curve a little bit more gradual so it's not as frustrating. This took me about 4 days to remake a ton of content for the game, so I was a bit stressed I wouldn't be done in time. Now that there are over 30 levels to play, I needed a way to get back to where you left off if you leave the game. But I can't store information because it's a web game. So I just made it so that you can skip levels or go back levels whenever you want. This had the extra benefit of also letting people not feel stuck if there was a difficult section they just couldn't beat. The only problem is that the game felt kind of pointless, so I had to make some reason to want to beat each level. Then I remembered the riddles. Everyone in her class likes riddles, so I put riddles as a question in each level whenever you start, and the answer would only be revealed when you beat the game. I also renamed the game Riddle Rocket because that sounds better than generic rocket game. And while I was adding riddles, I also added a number to each of the levels so you can see what number of levels that you're on. Getting the riddles for 34 different levels was a lot more work than I thought it would be, but at this point I was spending all day making the game so I could get it done in time. By the time I was finished with this part, I only had about 2 days left. Now, as for the main character, or whatever you call it, the rocket itself, I made it so that you can use the touchpad so that phones can now be used to play the game. And I made it so that the arrow keys would also work so that you can use your left hand or right hand. And I also made the rocket turn faster so you have more control in the air itself. I reduced the gravity so that you have a little bit more control and a couple of other things. And that was pretty much it. I was done. I had plenty of time to spare, but just to be safe, I sent it to be place tested by a few people. They tried it and a whole day of bug fixing, tweaking, and head bashing later, the game was finally finished 1 day early. I sent it to my mom so that she could test it out to make sure it works, and she just couldn't resist showing her class on test day. Rather than waiting for the celebration, she showed them a day early. I think I got my ADD impulsiveness from her side, but it's okay. It really is okay because she didn't spoil the ending, where previously the ending was just a really hard level with balls bouncing around and it was just hard to get to the end. Now, the second to last level has the riddle, who has the best class? And when you beat it, it shows the answer, it's their class. And then it moves on to the last level, which is the names of all the students instead of the bouncing balls. It has all of the names bouncing around.
And there's your names.
I have been, for the last few months, telling people in my life, or telling you on YouTube, that I want to be a game designer. And honestly, I am a game designer. I made a game. I promised to remake it even better with a deadline, and I did it, and I met my deadline. And I think it turned out really well. And there are people out there in the world that I've never met before who have played my game, who have appreciated it. And that's awesome. I am a game designer, and I'm going to keep making games, and I'm going to keep making videos about it. I will see you on Wednesday, and please wish me luck.